You packed your words in half sentences, left the truth behind. I watched you walk away from us with answers still in mind. You said it wasn't about me, but never said what it was. You closed the door so gently, like that would hurt me less. I stood there in the quiet, waiting for you to explain. But silence isn't closure, it just echoes the pain. You left me with questions I still can't outgrow. Was it something I didn't do, or something you don't know? I replay every moment, searching for a sign. You left me with questions and no goodbye. I read between your pauses, like they held the truth. I tried to make it make sense when nothing felt like you. I learned how to doubt my heart, second guess my view. I kept looking for answers that were never meant for me to prove. You never said you stopped loving me, you just let it fade. I stayed loyal to confusion while you walked away. You left me with questions that live inside my chest. Was that too much, not enough, or just a temporary rest? I kept hoping time would tell me, what do you wanna say? You left me with questions that won't go away. Some goodbyes don't come with reasons, just an open end. I keep searching for your meaning, like it's something I can mend. Maybe closure isn't coming, maybe that's the truth. You left me with questions, and I'm learning to live without you. You left me with questions, but I'm not blaming me. I won't keep rewriting my worth to fit your memory. I don't need all the answers to finally move on. You left me with questions, but I'll find my own. You left me with questions, now I'm letting them go. I forgot my name in loving you, forgot the sound of my own voice. I learned to live inside your world, like I didn't have a choice. I bent my dreams around your knees, let mine fall out of sight. I stayed away to keep you safe while I disappeared at night. I told myself this is what love is, none. I didn't see I was fading, trying to keep us one. Every pause, every delay, I made excuses for your absence, found reasons for you to stay. I carried all the weight of us like it was mine alone. I built a home inside your arms that never felt like home. You never asked me to disagree or fade into the blue, but I thought love meant choosing you over everything I knew. I lost myself in us, in all the things we weren't. I kept loving through the warning signs, while every bridge got burned. I stayed loyal to your almost till I felt impossible. I lost myself in us. Some hearts don't break from leaving, they break from staying still. I kept choosing you in the dark while losing my own will. Loving you wasn't my weakness, but staying became my cost. I didn't lose you, baby, I lost myself in us. I lost myself in us, but I'm finding me again. I'm gathering the pieces you couldn't hold till the end. I won't confuse devotion with being undone. I lost myself in us. I lost myself in us. Now I'm choosing me. I don't believe in signs of fate, but you felt older than time, like we had met before this life, somewhere between the lines. Your eyes felt like a memory I couldn't place on name, like my soul recognized you before I knew your face. I loved you without asking how, silence through the years. I loved you in every lifetime, even here. I gave you all my quiet faith, every unspoken prayer. I made a home inside your heart, not knowing you wouldn't stay there. I stayed loyal to our story, even when the pages tore. I kept believing love like this was worth the ending for. You didn't love me the same way, but I still held on tight. Some souls love deeper than forever, even when it costs their life. I loved you in every lifetime, in every broken way. I loved you past the warning signs, past what you couldn't say. If there's another world after this, where hearts don't disappear, I'd love you in every lifetime, even there. Maybe love isn't meant to last, maybe it's meant to mark. Some souls are only passing through to leave a permanent scar. I don't regret the way I felt or how deeply I felt. Loving you was written in me long before I could tell. I loved you in every lifetime, but this one had to end. I'm letting go of who we were, and not of who you've been. I'll carry you like a quiet truth, I'll hold but not pursue. I love you in every lifetime, just not this one with you. I loved you in every lifetime, now I release you. I held your hand like it was fate, like nothing could break it apart. I carved your name inside my heart before you even knew my heart. I kept my faith in every smile, even when I doubted you. I loved you like a promise, one I thought you'd honor too. I stayed through storms you didn't see, kept my light so you'd find me. I believed in every maybe, even when it hurt silently. I loved you like a promise, sacred, strong and true. I gave you every part of me, hoping you'd give some too. I kept my bow inside loved you like a promise, the kind no one can steal. I gave my all without a guard, kept my hands open wide. I thought our love was forever, but forever was denied. That love remains. You spoke in maybe not in plans. Your heart was never clear. I held my breath between your words, pretending you were here. Your love was always just enough to keep me holding on. I traced your silence every night, wondering what went wrong. I learned to love you distant, call it something kind. I blame my fear for all the cracks that you left behind. Touched me like you needed me, then pulled away again. I learned to read your quiet moods like they were written plans. I waited for your certainty like it was on its way. I held your name inside my chest while you looked somewhere else. You never dear. I made excuses to keep you near. I gave you grace you never asked for, faith you couldn't hold. I loved you through doubt until love grew cold. I loved you through doubt, and you never noticed. I held your hand through thunder when the skies refused to clear. I whispered love through lightning, even when I felt the fear. Your walls were high and endless, your storms would never cease. I stayed through every shadow, hoping you'd find your peace. I loved you when it hurt to breathe, when your heart seemed far away. I kept the flame inside my chest, even when the night betrayed. I loved you through the storm, through the rain, through the pain. I gave you all my shelter, even when it was in vain. I stood when the winds tore us apart. I held you through the thunder's roar. I loved you through the storm, and still I love you more. I waited through your silence, through every cold, quiet night. I carried hope like armor, and your heart like fragile light. I forgave your distant moments, I softened every blow. and I love you for all time. I loved you through the storm, and I still love you. I never learned how to hide my heart. It showed in every word I said. I gave you truth with a shield, every feeling left unsaid. I loved you in the simplest ways, no games, no second phase. I trusted love would keep us safe. I trusted you with all my faith. I thought honesty was enough. I thought real would always stay. I didn't know my purest love would push your heart away. I loved you too honestly, with nothing left in my defense. I meant every forever. I felt every consequence. I opened every part of me, no secrets, no disguise. I loved you with my whole truth, and you loved me with half your mind. I spoke my fears out loud at night, believing you would hold them too. I showed you cracks I never showed, because I felt safe with you. But love that's open scares the ones who aren't ready to feel. My honesty became a weight you weren't willing to heal. You said I felt too deep, too real, like that was something wrong. But loving softly and completely is where my heart belongs. I loved you too honestly, I didn't know another way. I gave you all my fragile truths, you slowly turned away. I wasn't trying to be happy, I was trying to be true. I loved you with no protection, and that's how I lost you. If loving real is dangerous, then let it break me clean. I'd rather hurt from honesty than live in what could have been. I won't apologize for love that never learned to I loved you too honestly, and I'd do it all again. I'd still choose truth over comfort, even knowing how it ends. Because love that isn't fearless isn't love I wanna keep. You may forget the way I loved, but my heart knows it was deep. I loved you too honestly, and I'll never regret being me. I loved you with caution in my hands, like glass I didn't want to drop. Every word I almost said, every truth I almost stopped. I smiled when I felt unsure, said I'm fine when I was not. I learned to hide my worries so I wouldn't scare you off. I measured every heartbeat, afraid of asking for too much. I learned to love you quietly so I wouldn't lose your touch. I loved you with fear of being too real, of needing too much, of showing how I feel. I loved you with fear of watching you leave, so I broke my own heart just to make you believe. I held my breath around you like love was something thin. I made myself smaller so I'd always fit you in. I forgave before you asked, ignored the signs I knew. I kept choosing your comfort over what was true. I thought love meant survival, not safety or release. I didn't know I was bleeding just to keep the peace. I loved you with fear of being replaced, of not being enough in your changing space. I loved you with fear and called it devotion, but love shouldn't hurt like a silent ocean. Maybe love isn't careful, maybe it's brave. Maybe I shouldn't have been afraid to ask you to stay. I loved you like losing you was always near. I didn't love you freely, I loved you with fear. Ooh, I loved you with fear till I forgot my name, till my heart learned to whisper instead of saying it plain. I loved you with fear, and I'm tired of the cost. I won't lose myself again to a love already lost. Find out to love without fear, even if it's not with you. I walked into your arms believing there was always a way back home. I never thought love could feel like this, so endless and alone. I gave you every quiet promise, every fear I tried to hide. I didn't keep a door behind me, I loved you with no exit sign. I thought if I stayed long enough, you'd choose me in the end. I mistook the depth of my devotion for something you could comprehend. I loved you with no exit, no way to leave unscarred. I gave you all my breathing, every fragile part. I stayed when I was breaking, with nowhere left to run. I loved you with no exit, till there was nothing left but love. I made a home inside your chaos, called you cold nights just afraid. I kept forgiving every silence so you wouldn't walk away. I carried us like a burden you never tried to feel. I kept bleeding quietly so our love could look real. You never promised me forever, you just let me believe. I locked my heart from leaving so you could come and leave. I loved you with no exit, past the warnings I ignored. I stayed loyal to your almost while you closed every door. I bent myself in circles just to keep us warm. I loved you with no exit till I came undone. Some loves don't end with goodbyes, they end with staying too long. I kept calling it devotion while I knew something was wrong. Loving you wasn't the mistake, but staying became my fall. I forgot how to save myself while trying to save it all. I loved you with no exit, but I'm finding one tonight. I'm choosing all the parts of me you couldn't love right. I won't trap my heart in hope that only leads to none. I loved you with no exit, now I'm finally done. I loved you with no exit, now I'm walking out. I saw the cracks before they widened. I felt you slipping through my hands. You stopped saying my name with meaning, like you used to when we began. I told myself love isn't easy, that it bends before it breaks. So I kept choosing patience with every step you didn't take. You said you needed room to breathe. I gave you all of mine. I thought loving you harder would make you stay every question, so I wouldn't start a fight. I made myself easy to love by disappearing the night. I carried all the weight of us like it was mine to hold. I called your silence distance, called your coldness being cold. You never asked me to keep waiting or bleed to make you stay, but I thought that's what love required, to give yourself away. I stayed because I loved, even when love was gone. I held on to the memory while you were moving on. I stayed past the breaking point, past where I belong. I stayed because I love. Some hearts don't shatter loudly, they fade in quiet pain. I kept choosing you in the dark while losing myself again. Loving you was never wrong, but staying was my fault. I stayed because I loved and forgot myself at all. I stayed because I loved, but I'm choosing me tonight. I'm letting go of the version of us that only lived in my mind. I won't confuse devotion with being undone. I stay because I love. I stayed because I loved. Now I'm learning how to go. I memorized the sound of your door every time you didn't close. I told myself you'd turn around if I just stayed close. I made excuses in the quiet for every careless tone. I called it love, I called it patience, while I stood alone. You said my name like it meant something, but never said you were wrong. I kept waiting for a sentence that never came along. I stayed for the apology that you never gave. I stayed for the moment you'd finally say my pain was real and brave. stayed because I believed I'd read between the empty texts, heard guilt in every sigh. You look at me like I was asking for too much of your time. I lowered all my expectations just to keep the peace. I taught my heart to whisper so yours wouldn't leave. You kept saying it's not that deep, like I was overreacting. But love shouldn't need translating or constant over-explaining. I stayed for the apology that lived behind your eyes. I stayed for the version of you that never told me lies. I forgave without the healing, I begged without the plea. I didn't stay because I was weak, I stayed because I believed one I'm sorry could have saved us, could have slowed the fall. But you chose your pride over us, and I chose love over all. I carried both our burdens until I broke in two. You walked away feeling lighter, I stayed heavy with you. I stayed for the apology, but I'm leaving with the truth that love shouldn't feel like waiting or something you have to prove. I gave you all the grace I had, now I'm setting me free. I didn't stay because I was weak, I stayed for the apology. I stayed for the apology. Now I'm done waiting. I watch you leave in pieces while I held on tight, clinging to the laughter that once lit up our nights. I stayed in the empty corners where your love used to be, because even fading echoes still felt alive to me. I traced the lines of what we had, even when it slipped away. I stayed because forgetting you was harder than the pain. I stayed for the memories, the ones that felt like home, the way your smile once held me, even when I was alone. I stayed for the moments I couldn't you don't even know. I kept the little photographs, the notes I didn't send. I whispered all the words I wanted, but couldn't make them bend. I loved you in the silence, when the world had moved on. I stayed because your shadow was all I had to lean upon. I replayed the days we laughed, and even the quiet fights. I stayed in every memory because they were mine at night. I stayed for the memories, the warmth I couldn't keep, the dreams we painted softly while the world fell asleep. I stayed for the echoes of the love I used to know. I stayed for the memories, though you'll never know. Maybe I should have let go, but how do you leave the past? I carried every piece of us, hoping something might last. I stayed for the love behind us, for the moments that were true, even if the rest of you was already gone from view. I stayed for the memories, the fragments of our days, the love that lives in shadows, even when it fades. I stayed for the heartbeat of the us I used to know. I stayed for the memories, even after you let go. I stayed for the memories because they still hold me. You started leaving in small ways, long before you said goodbye. Your eyes would look right through me, like I wasn't by your side. Your words grew thin, your touch grew cold, your silence filled the room. I learned to read the distance in the way you moved. I kept the light on for you, even when you faded out. I kept believing love meant waiting, even in the doubt. I stayed when you drifted, when your heart slipped away, when love and me felt heavy and you needed space. I held us together while you let go bit by bit. I stayed when you drifted, and I broke inside of it. You smiled like everything was fine, but I felt the truth beneath. I was fighting for your presence while you were finding relief. I made excuses for your absence, called your distance time. I kept lowering my needs just to keep you mine. I loved you louder than you just stopped trying to stay, and I kept loving the version of you that was already walking away. I stayed when you drifted, when hope learned to lie, when every weed turned slowly into you and I held on to echoes of what we used to be. I stayed when you drifted, and you left quietly. I stayed when you drifted, and I don't know why. I waited in the spaces you left empty, hoping you'd come back to me. I loved you in the quiet hours when no one else could see. You smiled like I mattered, but I always felt the doubt. I wasn't first in your heart, just the one you couldn't live without. I gave you all my early mornings, all the nights before my dreams, but you never thought to choose me first or notice what that means. I was never your first thought, just the one you turned to last. I was a whisper in your mind while your love was moving fast. I stayed through your almost, through the could have beens, and maybe I was never your first thought. And it broke me quietly. I learned to laugh when you were happy, even if it wasn't with me. I bent my world around your life till my own heart couldn't breathe. I forgave the things you never saw, ignored the ways you strayed. I loved you without hesitation, even when I wasn't first to be weighed. I made you my beginning and almost my end, but you kept me in the margins like I was someone you could spend. I was never your first thought, just a shadow in your plans. I held us together quietly while you didn't hold my hand. I stayed through the silence, through the love that wasn't mine. I was never your first thought, and I paid the price in time. I wanted to be your forever, the one who mattered most. Instead I was a second choice, a ghost inside your ghost. I gave you all my mornings, all my trust, my heart, my mind. I loved you completely while I was left behind. I was never your first thought, but I loved you anyway. I stayed in the quiet spaces where your heart would never stay. I won't regret the love I gave, even if it came too late. I was never your first thought. and I'm learning to be mine. You came to me when nights were heavy, when your world was falling apart. I held your fears like they were fragile, gave you the safest parts of my heart. You leaned on me when you were lonely, but left when the sun came through. I was the place you went to rest, not the place you ever chose. You said you cared in quiet ways, like that should have been enough. I gave you all my patience, you gave me borrowed love. I was your comfort, not your choice, your silence in the dark. Memorize the weight of you, the way you broke and stayed. I learned to love you gently, so you wouldn't pull away. I made myself your safe place while you kept looking elsewhere. I stayed loyal to your pieces, you never meant to care. You never promised me forever, you just let me believe. I thought being needed was the same as being seen. Your midnight call, your relief. I gave you all my tenderness, you gave me almost me. I stood right in front of you, still you looked past my voice. I was your comfort, not your choice. Some hearts are homes for healing, but not for staying long. I let you rest inside my love while you were already gone. I don't regret the way I cared or how deeply I felt. I just wish I had known sooner I was loving by myself. I was your comfort, not your choice, but I'm choosing me tonight. I won't be your quiet place you visit then leave behind. I deserve a love that stays, that You held my hand but looked away, said stay with eyes that couldn't. Your silence spoke in broken lines, promising things you wouldn't. You pulled me close, then built a wall, right where my heart could see. Every time I felt you leave, you swore you needed me. I learned to read between your words, your pauses, every doubt. I loved you in the question marks, you never cleared them out. You gave me mixed signals, hope dressed up as pain. One day you were all in, the next you pulled away. You made me feel chosen, then easy to lose. I kept living the version of you that never stayed true. Kissed me like you'd never go, then left without a sound. I built my world on almost, you never turned around. You said my name like it meant home, then vanished into space. I searched for meaning in your touch while you erased your trace. I waited on your half-yes love like it was something real. You never had to break my heart, you just refused to feel. You gave me mixed signals, one followed by cold. You let me believe in us, then left me alone. You called me forever, but treated me loose. I stayed in confusion because I trusted you. Maybe I love potential more than what you were. I held on to every promise that never learned to occur. You didn't mean to hurt me, but you didn't mean to stay. Your indecision broke me in the quietest way. You gave me mixed signals and I lost my sense of truth. I blame my heart for feeling when the problem was you. I wasn't asking for perfection, just clarity and care. But you left me guessing if I was ever really there. You gave me mixed signals, and I loved you anyway. I spoke, but you never heard. I cried, but you looked away. I gave you all my presents, and you let it fade to gray. I tried to shine my love for you, hoping you'd notice me. But every word I whispered vanished silently. I learned to love in shadows, to make myself small, hoping you'd lean closer before I gave you all. You made me feel invisible, like I was never really here. I stood in your world alone, through every unspoken fear. I gave you all my quiet love, but you turned and walked right through. You made me feel invisible, feel invisible, but I won't love like this anymore. You made me feel invisible, but I'm learning to be seen. I'll take back every moment I gave to what had been. I won't shrink, I won't fade. I'll rise above the blue. You made me feel invisible, but now I see my worth is true. I'm not invisible anymore. I'm finally whole. You stopped saying my name like you're mad. Started saying when you needed someone there. I watched myself turn into an option while you pretended not to care. You smiled like nothing was changing, like I was still your place to land. But I felt the distance growing every time you let go of my hand. I tried to be enough for you in ways I shouldn't have to try. I kept shrinking my importance just to stay in your life. You made me feel replaceable, like love was easy to erase. I gave you everything I had. You gave me just my place. I stood right here believing while you searched for someone new. You made me feel replaceable for loving you. You kept your options wide open while I closed every door. I stayed loyal to a future you weren't fighting for. I learned how to doubt my value from the way you looked away. I started questioning my worth every time you didn't stay. You never said I wasn't enough, you just treated me that way. And silence spoke louder than anything you'd say. You made me feel replaceable, like I was easy to lose. I kept choosing you in the dark while you had nothing to choose. I loved you past the warning signs, past what was breaking me too. You made me feel replaceable for loving you. Some wounds are made by leaving, they're made by being compared. I kept waiting to be chosen while you were already there. Loving you shouldn't feel like this, disposable, small. I stayed too long believing I could be irreplaceable and on You made me feel replaceable, but I'm taking my worth back now. I won't compete for your attention. to speak without a sound, smiling while I'm breaking down. I said I'm fine in different ways, hoping you'd read my face. I waited in the pauses between us, where love was supposed to start. I whispered every truth I had, but you never heard my heart. I wasn't asking for perfection, just somewhere safe to fall. But every time I reached for you, you didn't feel me at all. You never heard my heart when it was calling your name. You only listened when it was quiet, never when it was in pain. I bled between the sentences. You heard the words, not the part that was begging to be loved. You never heard my heart. I learned to love in half sentences, to not say what I need. I held back tears in crowded rooms so you wouldn't feel guilt in me. I stayed calm so you'd stay close, stayed small so you'd stay kind. I buried storms inside my chest so yours could stay dry. You said if something's wrong, just tell me, but never slow down to hear. Love shouldn't need to scream to matter or beg to be clear. You never heard my heart when it was falling apart. You saw the smile, missed the shaking. You missed the hardest parts. I cracked in quiet moments. You called it being strong, but strength was just me surviving, being hurt for too long. One moment of attention could have changed the end. If you'd looked past the surface, you might have seen me then. I wasn't hard to understand, I was just easy to ignore. You never heard my heart, but I heard yours fade away. I felt the distance growing in every word you didn't say. I loved you without conditions. You loved me without depth. Now I'm learning how to listen to my heart instead. I won't go quiet for love again, just to be left unheard. Then the end. I loved you in quiet ways, the ones you never saw, and staying up and waiting late and fighting without war. I gave you all my patience, every soft forgiving part. You grew used to my kindness like it wouldn't break my heart. I made it easy to love me. I asked for almost nothing back. You mistook something I wouldn't let. You took my love for granted, like it would always stay, like my heart was unbreakable, like I wouldn't walk away. I gave you all my tenderness, you gave me reasons to doubt. You took my love for granted till there was nothing left to give up. I was there on your worst days, held your fears when you fell. But when I needed you the most, you couldn't tell. You heard my voice, not my pain. You saw me, but not enough. I kept showing up for you while you stopped showing love. I softened every moment so you never feel alone. I didn't know I was teaching you how to live without my soul. You took my love for granted, like it cost you nothing at all, like I wouldn't feel the distance, like I wouldn't feel the fall. I bent until I disappeared so you could stand tall. You took my love for granted and never noticed me at all. Love shouldn't feel invisible when it's given this deep. I shouldn't have to disappear just for you to keep your peace. I loved you without conditions. You loved me when it was easy. And I paid the price for loving you freely. You took my love for granted, and now learn you I know I stayed longer than I should have, hoping something would grow. Now I'm learning how to leave with what's left of my pride. You took my love for granted, but I'm taking my heart back tonight. I gave you everything you never asked to keep, and I'm finally choosing